Hello there guys, welcome back to Younes Talks Football, welcome back to a brand new video. I hope all of you are doing well today. What an incredible day of football. Premier League football back to its finest as we had some pretty crazy results come in today. Yesterday was obviously Chelsea versus Fulham, which finished 0-0 despite Chelsea coming in looking like they were going to show up like a brand new Ferrari Enzo. Have to mention the Enzo, even though Enzo played well. But with all that money spent and all the new acquisitions, nothing pieced together, and it still finished 0-0 against a Fulham team that were actually very efficient and on the day played really well and were very organised. And then today, the 12:30 slot on a Saturday, the death slot, as I like to call it. It's the cursed slot. It's a slot where if you are a big team and you get that slot, you're finished. You're going to lose that game. Arsenal today got that slot against Everton at Goodison Park, and guess what? They lost the game 1-0. It was very easy to think that it was just going to happen. Everton were just going to win 1-0. I was joking with an Arsenal friend of mine prior to the game, even though he thought that they were going to win. I was saying, look, today could be one of those days where Arsenal will have 585 shots on target. Everton will have 1. Arsenal have 75% possession. Everton will have 25. And the score will finish Everton 1, Arsenal 0. It's just that day, right? Especially when Sean Dyche comes into the frame as the new Everton manager, and you just know how he's going to set his team up. What happened? Now, the 585 shots didn't exactly come into fruition. Everton actually had, I think, 1 more shot on target than Arsenal, but Arsenal 70% possession, Arsenal looking like they were the more threatening side, but overall, nah. Everton were more efficient, Everton were more organised. Sean Dyche had that team playing in ways that we didn't think was capable with this Everton team anymore. Lo and behold, Everton won, league leaders Arsenal 0. And I thought I would do a video emphasising this one point. And also the Liverpool result, Klopp, and he's in danger now. Liverpool losing 3-0 to the hands of Wolves after a ridiculous... I don't have the vocabulary to describe what that first 15 minutes of the game was. The first 15 minutes of that game, where Wolves went up 2-0 very easily, just shambolic from Liverpool. Absolutely shambolic. And I have to say now, despite all of the achievements, which some would probably say, Younes, what achievements? Yeah, they won 1 Premier League, they won 1 Champions League. Great. They also won a League Cup and they also won an FA Cup in that time. But for 7 years, you know, should it have been more? Anyway, that's a debate for a different day. But Klopp's time at Liverpool, regardless of what they've achieved, you look at it now and you think he's in danger, he's in trouble, and it is the way it is. The team are not playing well at all. They have capitulated. I mean, they are now sitting below Chelsea. That tells you everything you need to know. At least Chelsea have the excuse. We had the government come for us. We had all sorts of rules and regulations come for us. We got sanctioned. We had to change new ownership. We've changed the manager. We've done all sorts, right? So we kind of have that to fall back on if we really want to. Despite spending what we spent, now we have to see the fruits bear themselves. But Liverpool don't have an excuse at all. And they've just capitulated into thin air. So you have to look at the manager. You have to look at the manager. So this is where I thought I would do a video discussing Sean Dyche's Everton, Klopp's Liverpool, and then we bring it back to Chelsea and what we truly should be expecting from this Chelsea team under Graham Potter, right? Sean Dyche has come into this Everton side and one game against the league leaders, a couple of days in the job, actually no, 3 days, 4 days in the job now, you can immediately see the difference. And it's not just, the way that they're playing. No, it's the fundamentals. The fundamentals. Look, I don't know about you, right? Everyone has a right and an opinion to their footballing philosophy, if you want to call it that, yeah? The way that they want the team that they support to play. The way that they want to see their teams play football. Everyone has their preferences, right? For me, look, if you have it down to me, I'm not, and many of you would know this by now, some of you may not, so I'll explain it to you. I'm not fussed about seeing my team play champagne football. I'm not fussed. If it's there, great. If it's not, look, I don't care. My aim is to see my team winning week in, week out. Or it's unrealistic to win every game. It's stupid to say, oh, my team has to win every single football match. It's not going to happen. It's impossible. But I would like my team to play in a way that I can see and go, okay, we are playing at a standard where we are getting points where we should be getting them. Maybe the odd occasion, yeah, it's just a bad day at the office. But we're winning. We're up there. We're competing. We're looking solid. We're looking threatening. We're looking consistent. That's all I want. Whether that means that we are going to play with an attacking brand of football, with a counter-attacking brand of football, with a defensive brand of football, with a park bus type of football, I couldn't care less. I could not care less. I just want my team to get results. That's my way. You might have a way that goes, well, no, I'm willing to sacrifice results if it means that we're going to be playing an expansive brand of football, right? For now. And then you hope in a year or two that we are playing like Prime Barca. That's your opinion and that's your right. I can't tell you you're right or wrong. You have your preference. That is it. Football's a beautiful thing because there isn't a right or wrong way. At the end of the day, it comes into the result. And if you are getting that result, that's the most important thing. Now, how you do it is entirely up to you. As I've said, there's no right or wrong way. There have been teams that have been successful playing like Prime Barca. Beautiful to watch. Trophies everywhere. Fantastic. There have been other teams that have been, some would say haram football, some would say boring football, but trophies everywhere, results everywhere. There's no right or wrong. If you're successful, you're successful, right? So that's me. Personally, that's me. I see Sean Dyche come in and he got the fundamentals right. He went back to the basics. The basics that Everton were lacking, right? In terms of showing up for the occasion, being able to fight for every first or second ball, staying solid, staying organized. This is the thing, right? Nowadays, unlike before, there's many football managers who choose to not have their teams just pass the ball, I'd like to say aimlessly, right? There's teams that there's managers that want their teams to play an expansive brand of football. But they always end up, you just see the team, yeah, they're passing, but they're passing along the back. They're passing it in combinations, but they're not really causing much threat up top. Some teams like a Prime Barca did, right, because they had the tools. But there are some managers that try to force this expansive way of playing on a team that are not capable of doing it. And they get praised for that. They get praised because, oh, it's progressive, it's attacking, it's beautiful to watch. Oh, the result didn't come in, it's okay, right? There are other managers that aren't about that. There are managers that are willing to try and get their teams to be solid first, to build the foundation of being defensively solid, and then to go from there, to make sure we don't concede first, and then try to think about attacking and try to think about scoring as many goals as we can. Some managers do it the other way around, in terms of we're going to try and score as much as we can and we'll think about the defence later. As I've said, is there a right or wrong way? Personally, Sean Dyche, I've seen come into this Everton team and he's got everyone playing in an organised manner in terms of that fundamental of being solid, being defensively strict, making sure that everyone is sticking to their position, making sure that not one person is having to carry the load for another, making sure that in terms of the positioning and in terms of when a team is on an attack to them, that they've got every single lane covered, they've got every single area of the pitch covered, making sure that they're getting stuck in and they're being physical and they're not afraid to go in for a challenge, making sure on a transition, they've already managed to not just work out where their teammates are going to be, but they're brave enough to take a risk if it's necessary and go straight back into position. And that physicality is always there. No one's getting caught sleeping. Sean Dyche today with this Everton team got all the fundamentals spot on. The basics, spot on. Everyone was fighting for each other. Everyone stuck to their position. Everyone was keeping it simple. No trying to be fancy or dribbling in between 3 or 4 players. None of that. Combining with the closest man to you and moving into spaces and then tracking back if you do lose the ball or if the action has stopped. Fundamentals, right? He got those absolutely spot on. And that showed. And I think that is where Everton were lacking. And it's clear. It comes down to basic fundamentals of coaching. Sean Dyche has come in and he's made that immediate difference. That creates confidence. There can be teams that are technically better than you. It's funny because I remember a few days ago I said I went and I played football, didn't I? Right? It was that scenario, and I was thinking in my head, wow, it's amazing that I'm seeing this in real time. I'm in it, right? I was on a team, and funnily enough, we won that game. What did we win? Was it 11-5? I think we won. We played for about nearly 2 hours, but we won 11-5, right? It was a 10-a-side game, not 11. But 10v10. Our side, and funnily enough, it was my first game in a while, and I was playing up top on the right-hand side as well. But I was watching, I was analysing, I was looking. Technically, my team that I was on, we weren't as good as the other side. In terms of individuality, in terms of technical ability. Ball comes in. Yeah, this player has the ability to dribble past 2, 3, 4 man. Our team didn't really have that. But boy, oh boy, we were organised. And defensively, we were solid. They were not getting through. They weren't getting through. And that can be the most frustrating thing. Why? Because if you have a team set up that is not allowing anything to get through, and that comes down to coaching, that comes down to positioning and placement. But if you are organised to a point where your ball retention is consistent, you're always going to have chances. You're always going to catch your opponent out. You're always going to win the ball and expose spaces that they've left in behind because their mindset was, we're on an attack. You win the ball off and boom, you launch an attack, you're gone. That's so key. For me, I feel like that is so key. And I feel like there has to be an emphasis on 3 things. Defending, organisation, ball retention. If you get those three things right, you're not conceding. It builds confidence. It creates chances. And you will as long as you're clinical, you will be putting the ball in the net. And I feel like that is exactly what Sean Dyche done today for Everton. Spot on. And I feel like Chelsea can learn something from this. Because Dyche has come in, blueprint immediately on the table. They've understood it. They've executed it. It's phenomenal. 1 game it took to see everything. Whereas at Chelsea, we're still struggling to see what Graham Potter's trying to do. Now, I want to bring up something about Graham Potter that I feel like is absolutely key here. Because I feel like this is going to speak volumes, right? This is going to speak volumes. Let me show you something about Sean Dyche, just about going back to basics in terms of mentality and in terms of the fundamentals. Getting the little things right first, right? The basics. And then you don't get too big for your boots. You don't try and do something advanced whilst you don't have the tools for it. Keep it simple. Check this out. Sean Dyche has banned snoods and hats at Everton training. He said, you train how you play. How can you train how you play if you have 14 snoods on, 15 hats and leggings, no shin pads, white socks? It's not relevant. Some people are going to say that's stupid. I get where he's coming from. He's not talking about just wearing, hats and snoods and whatnot. It's about putting yourself in a match day situation at the training ground. You're not training lightly and thinking, I'm just at training. No, you need to do more in training than what you do in a match. It's like a boxer. You think his training camp is going to be easier than the fight? You're smoking something if you think that. His training camp is going to be 10 times harder than the fight. Because if his training camp is 10 times harder and he can adapt to that, the fight's going to be easy. Same goes for any sport. That's the point. Players nowadays coming in with all sorts of, I'm minted, I feel good, I'm this, I'm the bollocks, I'm this, that, and the other. Ego just completely blowing up. And then in a match day situation, they get brought right back down to earth and then they complain about it. There's many players nowadays like that, unfortunately, unlike before, because I feel like there are some players that do what they have to do, but there's many players nowadays that are just getting softer and softer. And this comes down to it. You execute how you are going to play on a match day in training. You do. You have to keep that mentality and that seriousness. You have to. If you slack in training, how do you expect to perform on a match day? That's his point, because at Everton, clearly, there were players there not taking it seriously. That's where I think he's alluding to. If we go to Chelsea now, we move to Graham Potter and the way that we're setting up, I want to show you a few things, right? Because it goes back to the fundamentals. It goes back to the basics. Check this out. This was yesterday talking about Mount and Gallagher and their positioning. Absolutely shambolic. You see how far up the pitch they are? They're meant to be 2/8s, right? It's actually poor. When you think about it, it's poor. Now, this point was made during the game by many people. I'll show you another thing. DYCHE is trying to pick out a pass. Look how far forward both Mount and Gallagher are in those half spaces amongst the front three, right? It's basically become a front five. And look how large the gap is between Enzo, Mount and Gallagher. That's too far. It's too much. They need to be deeper. They have to be deeper. Now, I want to pinpoint something, because when it comes to positioning, when it comes to this sort of mistake, you look to the manager. At first, during a game, I'd look to the players, like, what are you doing? But I can't put the blame on the players if the instruction has come from the manager. Now, what's unclear here is what's happened. Now, my personal opinion during the game yesterday, I was looking at the players and thinking, especially Mount, literally moving into Mudrik's position, going into a half space, shifting to the left-hand side, moving central, going straight back to the left-hand side, going so far forward. The gaps between the 2/8s and Enzo were ridiculous throughout the whole game. But it didn't seem like there was much of a correction from the bench. So at first, I'm looking at the players going, Mount, Gallagher, what on earth are you guys doing? Because they were having a horrendous game anyway. But then I looked to Graham Potter. Mate, you got to correct the situation here. What's going on? Now, I have it on authority from someone at the game, who's able to hear what Potter is saying, and said that Tuchel was saying the same thing when Tuchel was here, is that they do tell Mount, Gallagher, players like this, when they go too far forward, and yesterday it was said by Graham Potter to Mount, Gallagher, that they need to come deeper and close the gap between them and Enzo. But during the game, they weren't doing it. So I have to propose this, right? I have to propose this. If, and I've always said Mount is a top professional and he listens, he executes what he's told to do. But if that is the case and they're not doing what Potter's telling them to do, now I'm looking at Potter. Don't pick them for the next game. If they are not listening to you, bruv, if they during a game they are not doing as you instruct, why on earth do you keep playing them? So I'm going to give the opportunity. When it gets to the West Ham game on the 12:30 next Saturday, I don't want to see Mount or Gallagher in the starting 11. Simple. Because if they're not doing as you are asking during a game, what use are they? So now we see. If they are in the starting 11, Potter's lost his marbles. If he is instructing them to do something and they don't do it and you still pick them, that's not Mount's problem anymore. That's not Gallagher's problem anymore. That's your problem. So let's wait and see. Let's wait and see. I'm willing to give the benefit of the doubt here for both to sort out the situation in terms of executing where on the pitch they need to be if Graham Potter is instructing them. And if he's not instructing them, then he should, because they are in a wrong position anyway. Or if he has told them to bomb that far forward, then again, that's on Graham Potter. That means you've got it completely wrong. Tactically, you've got it completely wrong. Here's an example of, yesterday I was talking about the mental capacity of someone in the midfield playing for a top team like Chelsea. We've all seen this clip, but I have to run it back because it's the same thing week in, week out with these lads now. And this is Gallagher. Check this out. This is a clip that we've seen of Gallagher where he's instructed to pass forward. He sees the run. He doesn't pass. And Tuchel's fuming. Tuchel's clearly looking at Gallagher. There's a runner. Doesn't pass. Vision. No vision. Zero vision. Zero. That's just the truth. That's how I illustrated it yesterday, and it's the same since that point. Right now, it's the same. So it's a worrying form to talk about Mount, Gallagher, players like this, and you have to even look at the others: Cucurella, Ziyech, all sorts. There's no consistency at all from the lads that have been in this Chelsea team for a little while. This is something that I saw on Mount, and I couldn't believe it, but Mount has now registered 60 plus failed across his corners, 13 out of 62 in the Premier League alone for Chelsea this season. This is worrying. It is worrying. It is worrying when you get, again, the basics, fundamentals. This is basic stuff. So it is what it is. Now, when we're talking about the process, I look to Klopp and I look at Liverpool, 7 years in the job, and look how it's ending. Some would say it's normal. You reach that time, 7 years. There has to be a change. I would say yes, in the modern game, that is it. That the lifespan of a manager isn't going to go beyond that time anymore. You're not going to get the Alex Fergusons or Wengers of 20 years in the job anymore. That's not going to happen, especially in the modern day. No chance. So on a realistic level, 5, 6, 7 years in the job is as far as managers can take a team now. I wouldn't be surprised if Klopp leaves the job. I would not be surprised if he got sacked. Maybe he's taken it as far as he can. Some would say, well, it's okay. He just needs to change the entire team again. Unfortunately, I don't think that's how it's going to work. It's not how it's going to work. And if the players are not responding to you anymore, they're not responding. So now I'm looking at Klopp and I'm saying he's under pressure. And big time. I wouldn't be surprised if he lost his job. I really wouldn't. So this is where I'm looking at processes, right? Is it really realistic? And I want to ask you guys, and I'm going to end with this. Is it really realistic to ask of a process when nowadays it doesn't seem like a manager is going to go beyond, let's call it 7 years in a job? It's either going to be 7 or less. Whether it's 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It's going to be less. Up to 7, I would say. Pep is getting close to that too. Or Pep is at that level. Soon enough, are they always going to run their course? Do you think a manager can go beyond that? Because when we talk about a process, many people talk about, oh yeah, we've got to try and get something done for the next 10 years or something. Is that realistic though? Is that how the modern game is nowadays? Or is that something that should be changed maybe? If it's not, let me know down below. I'd love to hear it, because personally, I'm starting to see it, and I'm honestly starting to read into maybe managers lasting 3, 4 years in a job and having to go is just the way forward. Maybe it is. Maybe it is. So when we talk about a process, maybe it's not about just basing it around one manager and that's it. Maybe it's trying to build a team that can adapt to various managers depending on the situation, so you're not left behind in case you have to make a change. Maybe. Let me know down below if you think that's the way to go, or if you truly believe in, no, it is possible. Can get someone in that can just lead for 10 years or something. It can be done. Let me know your thoughts and opinions down below. I'd love to hear it. But thank you all so much for watching. I will give you guys another video tomorrow. Make sure you guys are here for that one. Much appreciated. And I will see all of you then. Hit the subscribe button if you are new. Hit the notification bell to be notified once I've uploaded. Smash the like button if you have enjoyed this. And I will see all of you tomorrow. Have a good one, people. In a bit. Take care and peace.